Somebody tell the Democrats you came and talked to this committee because you're a whistleblower. Isn't that right, Mr. Levitt?
Yes, sir.
That's exactly how it works.
May I take a moment to address this idea that these aren't whistleblowers?
Sure.
The law.
You need to educate the members on the other side of the dais here.
I don't need educating.
The way that the law.
Yeah, yesterday was kind of a doozy for Jim Jordan as he was mocked for the conspiracy theories surrounding FBI abuses. But of course, today, all of a sudden, now the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court opinion was released. That suggests that the agency's antics may go a little bit further than the right-wing members of Congress have claimed. This per the Washington Post. The FBI has misused a powerful digital surveillance tool more than 278,000 times, including against crime victims, January 6 riot suspects, people arrested at protest after the police killing of George Floyd in 2020, and in one case, 19,000 donors to a congressional candidate, according to a newly unsealed court document. And that is the Foreign Intelligence Court, which oversees Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, better known as FISA. Well, the Section 02 database is a vast trove of electronic communications and other information that can be searched by the National Security Agency and by the FBI. The FBI is authorized to search the database only when agents have reason to believe that such a search will produce information relevant to foreign intelligence purposes or evidence of crimes. But of course, we've known for quite some time that the agents have not necessarily respected those parameters. But of course, we know now it's a bit more egregious because they've been abusing access really to the displeasure of many, including FISA Judge Rudolph Contreras. For example, around June 2020, an FBI analyst conducted 656 queries of FISA information, apparently, because the Bureau was considering whether to use people as informants and wanted to check for any derogatory information, the court filing says. The FBI did not have any reason to believe that agents would find such information, officials said. After the January 6, 2021 riot at the US Capitol, an FBI employee ran batches of inquiries that amounted to 23,132 separate queries of presumed Americans to find evidence of possible foreign influence, although the analyst conducting the queries had no indications of foreign influence related to the query term used. Officials also found a long pattern between 2016 and 2020 in which the FBI conducted FISA searches about individuals listed in police homicide reports, including victims, next of kin, witnesses, and suspects, according to the court opinion. The Justice Department found that these searches violated the rules because there was no reasonable basis to expect they would return foreign intelligence or evidence of a crime. Now, when confronted with these misuses, well, the FBI said that it fixed the issue, that really this was just a misunderstanding between employees and DOJ lawyers about how to properly use that database. It sounds like quite a misunderstanding, Cenk?
Yeah, so there's a couple of elements to this story. First is that the right-wingers have found out that the FBI sometimes abuses its power. Welcome to the rest of America. It's nice to have you here. They feel like special victims. They're like, did you know that the January 6th guy, some of them were spied in on like this through the FISA warrants? Yeah, so was Black Lives Matter. Yeah, that doesn't mean they should spy in on them, but not us, not ever us. And so for the first time in American history, the FBI is treating some right-wing groups as suspects. In other words, how they've treated the rest of us for all of time. But the right wing's not used to it. They're used to having law enforcement 100% on their side. No one ever looks into anything that they do. So they've caught tremendous feelings over it. And they think that they're special victims. They're like, FBI is targeting conservatives. But no, but most of the people they targeted were not conservatives. For the first time ever, they included some small radical conservatives on the list. And you guys think that it's like, oh my God, this is the most special victimization of all time. No, it isn't. So, but now we get to the second part of the story, which is really interesting. So this FISA court abuses have been happening for over 20 years now. And we told you about them during the Bush administration, Obama administration, Trump administration, and Biden administration. But when the left says things that are true and says we should fix it, no one ever does anything, ever, ever, ever. Because the Democrats hate their own base and they would never help us. They liked that we were getting spied in on. But the minute the Republicans say, oh my God, now 5% of the people is being spied in on is us, this is totally unacceptable. Republican politicians are now saying, oh my God, these FISA warrants are outrageous. Republican politicians love these FISA warrants. They loved them for the last 20 years. They're the main guys who pushed for them, and they didn't mind their abuses at all. All of a sudden, two rando right-wingers get looked into. They're like, oh, we gotta get rid of the FISA warrants. In a sense though, I respect that. Our politicians would never do anything for us, the Democratic voters, or the American people at large. So, hey, right wing, congrats. I'm glad you finally figured it out, 20 years too late. But yes, the FBI abuses FISA warrants all the time.
Yeah, no, this is, I mean, I think it's like probably taught in high schools now that what the FBI was doing in the 60s, right? The Hoover FBI. This is kind of what the FBI does, but it's kind of funny. Well, look, they're a little late to the party, but better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And they're very much as a party, it seems, as far as Jim Jordan goes with his antics just the other day. Because even though they're finally getting to the party, it's still like they don't know how to party. It seems like it's very much a problem in their regard. But the Washington Post did give a little credence to Jim Jordan. He said, while House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan has argued that the FBI has mistreated conservatives and applied a liberal bent to its investigations, the example cited in Contreras' opinion suggests that the Bureau was multifaceted in its failure to live up to the legal standards of the courts and the Justice Department. But notwithstanding this realization, it again doesn't appear that Jordan is really convincing in terms of having credible witnesses, at least, to show that this is a problem in terms of FISA. Here's a witness from yesterday's hearing featuring former FBI agents who somehow found God after being stripped of their clearances.
If one of your really good friends, your former colleagues, came to you and said, I have this thing that is being covered up, and I think the American people need to know about it, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them first to pray about it, long and hard. And I would tell them I could take it to Congress for them, or I could put them in touch with Congress, but I would advise them not to do it.
So you would legitimately try to protect one of your colleagues from doing what you have done?
Absolutely.
And how do you think that solves being able to shine light on corruption, weaponization, any kind of misconduct that exists with the American people?
It doesn't solve it, but the FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. And we are all examples of that.
I can't think of a more sobering way to end a hearing. I yield back.
Well, if that hearing had been somewhat effective and less of a clown show, perhaps we'd be a little bit more maybe inching toward actually getting some FISA enforcement action, which would be great. But it was not any good. It was an absolute failure. This per MSNBC. If the proceedings were intended to embarrass the Bureau, they backfired, painting the FBI's accusers and their allies in an unflattering light. Jordan hid transcripts from committee members, downplayed the fact that some of the witnesses had been paid by a member of Donald Trump's team, and pretended his so-called whistleblowers don't have serious credibility problems. Cenk, how did it sit with you?
Okay, so now the problem is that the Republicans are going to get like people who watch MSNBC, read the New York Times, to defend FISA warrants and abusing FISA warrants. Because the Republicans bring on these conspiracy theorist clowns, these deranged sock puppets, and they come in and I mean, I watched some of the testimony and I'm like, no, they actually do abuse FISA warrants. That's real. Why did you bring on lunatics to talk about it? Because now mainstream media viewers and readers are gonna look at it and go, oh, I guess the people who think that FISA warrants get abused are all lunatics like these witnesses that the Republicans brought. And all the Republican congressmen are gigantic liars and they can't be trusted at all. So now they're the defenders of civil liberties. And so I'm worried that they're gonna get mainstream Democrats to attack civil liberties because the Republicans are on the other side. This is, why can't we get one sane person to represent us?
No, I have no idea why not, but I haven't watched any of that hearing yet, but that's exactly what I predicted it to be, just something that could be a very serious issue that deserves a lot of focus and respect, but It's not going to get it with these guys, I don't think.
Yeah, or you know what? One super last thought here, guys. So some of the guys that were involved in January 6th were also looked into with abuse of the FISA warrant. So how could it be an abuse? It could easily be an abuse because in some cases it might make perfect sense. Hey, was there foreign interference that caused some of the people to go and attack the Capitol, right? There might be our foreign adversaries that want to attack our Capitol and egg people on to do it. But you have to have evidence of that, of some sort, before you ask for a warrant to look at all of their private information. It's an enormous invasion of privacy. So this is not for people who are already going to court and we think they already did it, etc. They're getting evidence on all of their private information on all of these guys without evidence that there was a foreign government interfering. So that's also wrong, even though it was targeted at the January 6th guys who I don't like at all and I think we're completely wrong. See, you could actually be in favor of civil liberties, whether it's to a left winger, a right winger, or just an average American. We should always be honest and principled about where we stand. I don't want any FISA warrant abuse. I don't think it should exist in the first place because they always abuse it. Every time they say they're not going to abuse it, they break a new record in abusing it. I don't want them to have the right to invade our privacy without actually knowing that there's any chance that we committed a crime. So they should get rid of the whole thing. But now, I don't know if that's become more likely or less likely because of the clown show that the Republicans put on in Congress. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.